Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to ARTIVISM, the Power of Art for Social Transformation. We are reaching the end of our ninth season. Carolina will introduce Nashawn Jackson.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you here. As Professor RG mentioned, we're getting close to the ending of season 9, but don't forget that the exhibition is up now at the PAC at Adelphi University, and from there it will travel to the Offutt Gallery at Teachers College, Columbia University. And it is our pleasure to introduce today Mr. Nashawn Jackson. Welcome back. Mr. Jackson shares his journey from justice impaired to community leader. Nashawn Jackson will discuss the value of patience, a lesson he learned during the time in prison. Through participation in therapeutic, spiritual, and organizational programs, he developed the discipline necessary to reintegrate into society and connect effectively with others. He emphasizes that patience and understanding are essential, and everyone is on their own unique journey. His long journey taught him the importance of adaptability and comprehension of how systems operate, even when they seem unjust. Mr. Jackson will share how he evolved into a community leader during his 31 years of incarceration. Recognized by the New York State Legislature as a pillar of his community, he works to provide reentry services and support for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals, helping them transition successfully back into their own communities. This presentation will focus on how he mentors young people to guide them in the right direction and bring out their best qualities. By training and leading by example, he aims to help them avoid some of the struggles he faced and inspire them to realize their full potential, ultimately creating ambassadors for social change. Nashawn Jackson will also share his creative side by sharing how he envisions himself as a superhero. His unique creative takes aims to showcase his resilience, adaptability, and his passion for helping others navigate life's challenges. Welcome, Mr. Nashawn.
Audio. Delighted, it's a pleasure to be here. Share with my journey. It's been a long way. To give you a little background.
Sorry, we can't hear you well.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you, Carolina, for that introduction, RG, for having me here tonight. Just to give you a little background of myself, I was the seventh child born of 9 siblings in Nassau County. My first encounter with the criminal justice system was in 1987. I was actually shy of my 18th birthday. And so at that time, I was actually in high school. I didn't get an opportunity to graduate because I had got arrested back in 1987 for assault. And I took full responsibility for my actions, and I went upstate, incarcerated in the New York State Department of Corrections for my first time at the age of 18. Never been in any trouble prior to that. So my thing was going upstate at that time at such a young age that I was going to lose out on a lot of things, as far as, friends, going to school. I never got an opportunity to graduate, like I said. So when I did get arrested for assault, immediately I focused on towards getting my GED. Because at that time, even though, I kind of like fell to the wayside by hanging out, want to be cool and things like that, that ended me up in trouble, I still had that passion of wanting to learn. So I got my GED. And then when I had got sentenced to 40 months to 10 years for assault, I went upstate. I enrolled in Skidmore University, and I had my focus on business. I wanted to learn how to own and operate my own business. So I did 40 months, and I was released from prison at that time, back to Nassau County. And I was working for my mom. She owned the dry cleaners. And while I was incarcerated, my mind was focused on coming home and, you know, broadening the business, the dry cleaning business, by having other items sold. I used to go to the city and purchase clothing and bring it back to Long Island and sell it out of the dry cleaning business, right? So 1992 is when I was released from my first period of incarceration. And I was home doing the right thing. And so having management of my mother's dry cleaners, um, it was a situation where, I used to help a lot of people. So I had a friend who I grew up with. Um, he was on parole. I was on parole. And so he basically needed an employment opportunity. So I hired him. The next thing you know, he got himself involved in some criminal activity. And so I was drawn into that because of the fact that I employed him. And at the time, he was on parole. I was on parole. And that's not a good thing. Two parolees cannot be together, working together, fraternize together. Automatically, that is a violation. So when this individual got arrested, they found out that he was employed by me, and I was drawn into another incident which I had nothing to do with. I end up going to trial. I didn't get that type of legal representation that would allow me to prove my innocence, right? So I end up being found guilty without having been indicted. I was never indicted for this crime. I maintain my innocence. So I ended up doing 25 years for a crime I didn't commit. But even though I was in prison, it wasn't really prison to me. It became an institution for me to begin to start learning more about myself and how to make myself better and improve myself. So I started participating in various different inmate organizations. I learned how to become a leader by signing up for various different leadership programs while I was in prison. Um, so after I did 25 years on top of the 5 years, that's 31 years of incarceration that I've done. But I didn't leave the prison system with any type of bitterness or resentment, because I knew and understand if I allowed myself to have that type of bitterness or resentment, then it would have been very difficult for me to evolve into the being as to who I am. So me being released in May of 2017, but prior to my release, I was a participant of the Otisville Network in the prison program. It was a medium correctional facility, whereas in that program, which consists of a residential program of a community of 50 souls, for 2 years, I participated in that program and was able to rise to the level of a coordinator, which required for me to have supervision over the whole community, making sure that the community and everyone is conformed with the protocols and making sure everyone is programming, doing all the secretarial paperwork. But these things, unbeknownst to me, was preparing me for something greater in the future. Now, at one point, before my release of incarceration, I truly wanted to become a lawyer. I became a certified paralegal while I was incarcerated, and I graduated from Blackstone Career Institute, 2012, and I began working in the law libraries. So all of this exposure in prison to these very different programs that I embraced, it prepared me for something that will be very unique for me in the future. So fast forward a little bit. So I've been the outreach coordinator for Network for approximately 7 years. That was my first employment upon my release. Again, I didn't know that I would be actually working for a reentry organization because my mind was basically focused on coming home, becoming a lawyer, and working for a law firm. And then from that point, establish a reentry service that will help men and women returning back into our society, providing with employment opportunities and housing and other type of programming that will help them, to transition back into our community. So as I was working with Network, there's one component that my former employer, her name was Ann Williams. She since passed away. She was my executive director at the time, 2017. It was her passion to introduce into the Network program a youth build program, something that involves mentoring youth, providing some type of youth services. So that was a challenge to me, along with the challenge of creating for Network its first reentry service unit. Prior before my employment with Network, they never had a reentry service or outreach department. So I was charged with that responsibility of creating one. And at that time, I had no idea what I was doing. So I actually took my phone and Googled outreach. And once I understood what the definition of outreach was, then I built the Office of Outreach around that definition. And since then, since 2017, I've been servicing over 1,000 clients. So I say about 2019 is when I started fulfilling Miss Ann Williams' promise as far as I would actually have Network to start focusing on youth mentorship programming. So where we was working at in this building in the Bronx is called Sobro. And Network has an office situated in that building that's owned by Sobro. So they also had a youth build program there in which Network, my Office of Outreach, had entered to an agreement, whereas every week someone from my office would go to the classroom and give presentations in the form of mentorship to the youth there. And we would have the youth to come back into our office, and they would sit in our office and we would have these conversations one-on-one if they actually would like to have that one-on-one conversation. So, but unfortunately, COVID kicked in and that program kind of like got set to the side because it was a lockdown and everything. The COVID effect, it ruined a lot of possibilities concerning Network being able to continue with its idea of having a youth program available. So during the COVID-19 lockdown, I'm still working for the Network as an outreach coordinator. We was met with the challenge of how we're able to continue our services, knowing that we no longer have access to the building. Individuals were still coming home because, despite the lockdown, docs were still releasing individuals out of prison. And so I came up with an idea for which Network can embark upon is creating a discharge resettlement service. And what that service consisted of is either myself or my team, we would travel upstate at a designated correction facility where we have to pick up one of our clients, a potential client who reached out to us and need our service. We would go up and pick them up, and we'd bring them to the parole office where they had, to go and check in. And after that, we would give them a cell phone, Metro card. We would give a knapsack full of necessities, face masks, everything they need to help them, transition upon their release. And And that was my first time that I ever submitted a request for a grant, and it was actually granted for that particular service, the discharge and settlement service. So Network has been um, an organization that kept me grounded and allowed me to express all that what I've learned and to exercise those skills that I learned while I was incarcerated during those periods of those years. So it was in 2020 that I met Professor Christina Zaccarini at Adelphi University. Adelphi University is also a component of my personal journey. And so it was 2020 when I met Christina Zaccarini. And at that time, she had a project in mind that she wanted to start, but she couldn't find no one to get her, to help get us started with this project. The name of the project we came up with is called the Mindfulness Resolution Project. And we worked very hard for 3 years straight to get this program noticed by the public, because the Mindfulness Resolution Project is a project that gives the students of Adelphi an opportunity to learn about the criminal justice system from a personal standpoint of view, coming directly from the interviews of justice impacted individuals. In other words, I would have the network officer outreach. Majority of the clients that we service are justice impacted. And these individuals who are known as the network alumni because they have participated once in our program, they are giving, the students are giving access to these individuals through the officer outreach for the purpose of interviewing them and preparing these bios, summarized bios. And these bios are used for the purpose of like stakeholders, landlords, employers, because normally these people always have a negative judgment against individuals who have been convicted of a crime. So what we try to do with the Mindfulness Resolution Project to students is try to get a positive side of these individuals out there in the world so that we can make their voice or these interviews available to these stakeholders to try to knock down the prejudice and the judgments they have against them in considering hiring them or to have these individuals become a tenant of their property. And so this is a very unique project, and Adelphi, the students have been magnificent as far as helping Christina and I to continue this project. Also, I've been working on for 3 years a network internship project, whereas Adelphi University and the students are given an opportunity to explore what it means to provide services to people who are just coming out of the criminal justice system, out of prison, who are in need of employment opportunities, housing, counseling, anger management, substance use prevention treatment program. So the Delphi students, they're charged with the task as being interns to reach out to our client list and to inquire and make an assessment as to whether or not if our clients are in need of any resources. And the interns of Adelphi, they normally would send an email, make a phone call, send a text message to communicate to our clients to make sure that they're getting the support that they need. And the most, how can I say that? The most fascinating thing that I have come across is with these interns that from Delphi is how they work together. I currently have 3 Adelphi students that are working with me in the Office of Outreach who have managed to service over 31 clients within a 4-month period. And they was able to help me clear my caseloads like never, so fast, like never before. And so my intention is to make sure that this internship program continues with the cooperation between Network and Adelphi. There are other things that I have been engaged in since I've been home. I've been out helping various lawmakers to get reelected, both on the Democrat side as well as the Republican side. I've been making journeys to Albany, protesting on behalf of the incarcerated, trying to get bills passed so that their families as well as them can enjoy the basic freedoms, like freedom of like due process and being able to live under prison conditions that doesn't amount to inhumane conditions, because I come from a different world that I can never forget about. So what makes me more effective to helping people, especially those who are formerly incarcerated, is the fact that I know what is needed to provide for these men and women coming home. So I make myself, I put myself in a position of, okay, this person, this client that is in front of me, how can I help myself? I look at that person as being myself. Or if I'm incarcerated and a person writes to my office asking for help, I will ask myself, well, what would I do for myself? How can I help myself? So putting my mind in that state allows me to become more effective with what I do in regards to servicing individuals. Now, it came to a point in my life because I come from a large family. It's like 77 of us. So I have a flood of children, not my own, nieces and nephews, great nieces and nephews. So I have to sharpen myself with them. In other words, my ability to mentor youth, my ability to listen and understand what they need, understanding the problems that they have. I learned that through my own family. I have a bunch of, nieces and nephews that I sit down with them and have conversations, and they feel comfortable with talking to me because I teach them that honesty is the best policy and trust is a must. And I'm learning more that the youth of today, they don't feel comfortable with talking, speaking to elderly people or older people, because a lot of us don't know how to communicate to them because we don't understand their culture. We don't understand what they are continuing to evolve into. Because we're older people, we're not so much, we're like so much focused on other things, as far as trying to maintain the bills and maintain, all the things that is needed in order to provide. Meanwhile, you got the youth out there, they don't have that type of responsibility. So their minds are going all different directions, especially in this world that we're living in nowadays where everything is social media dictated. So social media has become the parents for a lot of our youth, right? TikTok and all these other different social media platforms where emotions are driven. Sometimes emotions are driven to cause our youth to do things that we would never even imagine that our youth today would ever do in our time. I'm 56 years old. So I'm saying to myself, okay, all this information, all of this experience, all of this knowledge that I obtained for 31 years in seclusion and constantly going to law library and the library and reading and researching, what can I do now with all of this as a means to help our youth? Because the youth is our future. So this is the reason why I have taken a great interest in Adelphi University. And I believe that my journey, I'm led by some type of life force. We all led by some type of life force, some type of life force we are led by. It's just that we have to come into the realization of what that life force is. That life force is nothing but a whisper that dwells within us that's telling us what we need to do, what we should do. It's a conscience. The conscience to tell us what's right and what's wrong. But the problem is with our youth is that they're losing the way. The way that they're losing is that ability to become mindful of their actions, mindful of the choices that they make. So, as a superhero, my power is patience. And I believe that patience is the type of power that allows everything to stand still so that you can get an assessment of whatever's before you that may appear to be disturbing or whatever seems to be bothering you or whatever seems to be getting you upset. Patience has the ability of slowing, stopping, and causing everything to come to a halt. Illustration. How can one be so patient after spending 25 years of incarceration for a murder that he was never technically accused of? What do you mean you was never accused of? I was never indicted. I was never formally charged. And how can one be patient after serving 25 years? He's been denied access to the courts, constantly denied, 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 denied. How can one be patient when he was snatched off the street, taken in a location where no one can find him, stripped, taking all his clothes stripped off, with all white men around you, and you're there by yourself, helpless, and they're making you pose nude in front of a camera while you're naked? How do you maintain patience? How do you maintain patience when you're being forced to sign an incriminating statement, incriminating yourself for a crime you didn't commit? If you don't do it, you're going to continue to be beaten. How can you be patient with that? There's a lot that I went through in life, during this, this journey of mine, more likely the incarceration aspect of it. I've learned patience. I went to the parole board. They wouldn't let me go. They kept me in prison 2 more years. Then after that 2 years expired, I went again. They kept me in prison 2 more years. Then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to go to the parole board no more, because all they're going to do is hit me again. Because what they want me to do, they want me to feel remorseful for the loss of life in which I'm not responsible for. So it's very difficult. And it was very difficult for me to go before the parole board and show remorse for a crime I didn't commit. I didn't kill no one. So how can you be remorseful? So it took a third parole board appearance for me to finally get released. And again, patience. Because if I didn't have patience, I would have rejected the third board. I wouldn't have went. I would have got discouraged. So my life lessons is Endure with patience. Patience is a virtue. Even so, me being out here in the world now, 8 years since I've been released, because I've been patient, taking my time, doing things right, looking, listening, observing before I react. Only patience allows you to do that. The lack of patience allows you to become a reactionary. You just act pure off your emotions without even thinking about anything. You just lack patience. So with that patience, it also brought tolerance as part of my superhero power. These are literally powers. Words are power. When you embody these words, you become that which you embody. And you give that word the power. You become that patience. You become that tolerant. And most importantly, discipline. You have to have a self-disciplined lifestyle with yourself in order to keep you within your boundaries, because each and every one of us have to draw boundaries. Those boundaries are drawn only to keep yourself safe. Knowing your limits is a beautiful thing. Not knowing your limits, you can find yourself in hot water. Patience, tolerance, and discipline are the three key components that actually shaped and molded me into the person who I am as of today. Actually, I consider myself as being the unmoved mover. And what does that mean? The unmoved mover. How do one become the unmoved mover? Simply, right? So think about it. You're always in a, right now, each one of you are always in the center. Everything is always around you. Whether you go to the grocery store, everything is around you. You go use the bathroom, everything is around you. You sit at the kitchen table, everything is around you. Even at this moment, everything is around you. So once you become mindful that everything is around you and you're always in the center, then you know you have a choice, right? You have a choice to select all the things around you, people, places, things, and circumstances. That's all what constantly evolves around you while you're in the center. Now, these activities, I've learned that you have a choice to allow these things to move you. And when you allow things to move you externally, what happens? You become unbalanced. And then when you become unbalanced, then you start doing things and the outcome's never satisfying because you're imbalanced. Because you're allowing the things that are external to you to move you from the center of your being. Mind you, you're always in the center. Remaining in the center is the safest place to be because there you're calm, you have equal poles, you're balanced, you're at ease. But the moment when you begin to allow yourself to become attached to the things that are external to you, that's when you become moved by the things that are external. And whatever you attach to can have so much energy or contain so much energy that it may move you emotionally. And next thing you know, you're doing something that you're going to later on regret because whatever you allow within the center of your being, it was too strong for you. You couldn't handle it. So my superhero powers allows me to take these principles that I've learned, to share them with others with a sense of inspiration. I truly believe that I can solve any problem in this world. I truly believe that. All it takes is for me to have the necessary resources to solve the problem. But you got to know the problem in order to solve the problem. But in order to know the problem, you got to ask those questions. And the questions normally comes with an answer because you're in tune with yourself. I'm in tune with myself. So if a young man or young woman comes to me with an issue, I don't care what it is. The first thing you do is listen. And you listen until that person cannot talk anymore. You ask them a simple question, are you finished? And then if you was listening, then you'll be able to give him an answer to the problem that he's presenting to you. The key thing, when a person, a youth, a young person is seeking your counsel, you must have that person's undivided attention. That young person's undivided attention is very important. And the way to do that, you let him or her speak their mind. Don't be biased. Show love, show compassion, show understanding, and most importantly, show that you care. Because every human being wants to be cared for. Somebody wants to know that they're being, someone care about them. And when someone shows that you care, if you care, really genuinely care for a person, then that person is going to let their guards down. They're going to be honest with you. They're going to be truthful with you because you're showing a degree of caring. This is what I have been doing for 8 years, caring for people, showing that I care. And when you're compassionate like that, the results is unbelievable because at the end of the day, when that person come back to you and say, thank you, Caroline, I appreciated that. You helped the soul. But in essence, you really helped yourself. The measures that we give out in life are the measures we get back in return. Every measure. So I had to be conscious. We have to be cautious as to what we say and what we do and what we send out because we're going to get back what we sent out. That's the law. I didn't know these things prior before my incarceration. That's why I think that it making sense to me that everybody's life is structured and designed the way it's supposed to be. Some people may argue against that. But if you reflect and go back on your life history, you're going to see how strong you were. You're going to see how weak you were. You're going to see the change that you made, or you're going to see the change that needed to be made. And once you begin to reflect, meditation is very important. That's something else that the Mindfulness Resolution Project has taught us, to how to meditate and belly breathe and all these other techniques to bring us to our center. And once we get to our center, that's where we find balance. And that's where a lot of young men and women, a lot of youth, they need to learn how to bring balance in their life, and their decision, their choices will be different. So if there's any questions that anyone may have, my life is like an open book. I know it's probably a lot more that I forgot about to mention, but I'm quite sure if you guys ask me questions, it probably spark a thought to speak about it. So
Thank you, Nishan, for being our artivist again today. It's great to have you back. Before we go to a discussion, next Monday, May 5th, is ARTIVISM Season 9 closing with Can Art Change the World? Inside JR's Foundation for Art and Social Impact. Next week, we will at the next ARTIVISM on May 5th, we will also announce the recipient or recipients of the Sing for Hope sponsored Artivist Award. Be sure to go see, if you are in New York, ARTIVISM's ongoing exhibition, Give and Receive, From the Virtual to the Real, which is now open at its first venue at Adelphi University's Performing Arts Center. For more information on this and all of the series' past and upcoming events, please visit our website at www.adelphi.edu/. ARTIVISM. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram at ARTIVISM, the number 4 Shared Humanity, or simply Google ARTIVISM Initiative. We do come up. Our YouTube channel is ARTIVISM space the number 4 Shared Humanity. If you would like to get more involved or present at this ongoing initiative, please contact the ARTIVISM team. So now, Nishan, I do want to say that your work goes well beyond Adelphi University, right? Well beyond that. I got the sense that you understood the real meaning of community when you were on the inside and the importance of being part of a community, which then embraces you when you were released, right? Something to come out to. And the reason I say goes beyond Adelphi is because what you are working on with each of these young Adelphi students that are working as interns and volunteers, right? They then become these little ambassadors of change. They talk about their experience, right? With their family, with their friends, with their classmates. And that circle is now getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What is that called? That wave effect, right? Right, right. The ripple effect. So it goes way beyond that. It becomes a part of a conversation. It helps, create and instill empathy. It's not just that, what you give, you will then receive. I see it as something much different. Yeah, sometimes you do receive, sometimes it just goes away. My mother used to say, it sounds much better in Greek, but "Kane καλό και ρίξ' το στο γυαλό," which means do something good and then throw it off to sea. Let it go on its journey, right? So you're doing so much good with all these young people, and then you just let them be. They then go on and pay it forward, right? So you are inspiring them not just to give back to us as educators, as those that we that works with them, but to do the same someday for someone else, right? And it just keeps going and going and going. Let me see, I couldn't agree more about today's youth culture. It's very, very difficult. It's social media. They will take the word of what they hear from someone on TikTok, then the word from then something from their grandparents. I tell my granddaughters all the time, something's like, no, because like that's TikTok. Don't believe everything you see on Instagram and TikTok. That's not the case. And you have to show them the evidence, right? You have to tell them about your experience and jump at every opportunity, right? To not necessarily preach to them, but loop them back in, draw them back in. I don't want to be the only one talking here. There is a question from Lisa. Lisa, you can put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. Yes, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I have a question for Nishan in reference to the mindfulness project. The students from Adelphi, have any of them come into this with one major and decided to change what they were going to do going forward after experiencing this? Because we need more people out there to help represent people with, lawyers and advocacy. So have you ever come across a student who actually changed because of the program?
Yes, that's a good question. Yes. If you do have an opportunity to go on the Adelphi website, type in Mindfulness Resolution Project, and you will actually hear the students saying how the Mindfulness Resolution Project actually changed their majors. You had one student actually giving a testimony who participated in the project saying how she was a nurse, that she changed now her major into criminal justice. So yes, it definitely had that effect of them changing their majors after participating in the Mindfulness Resolution Project.
I do have to say, when Ashan comes and speaks to my students, and he has several times over the years, students are in awe, real awe. I mean, they almost kind of like have no words when Nishan speaks, because they are surprised that he's not angry, that he's not bitter, that he's not resentful. And they're all like, you did all this time for something you didn't deserve to do time for. Aren't you angry? Like, rather than be angry, Nashawn, how do you answer? What do you answer the
No, I
students?
have no time for
No
anger. It's a waste of
time.
energy. It's a waste of energy.
That's right. And he has changed their mindsets. They don't see someone who's done time as someone who deserved to do the time, as someone that, they're off the street, they're in prison and they see them as human beings, that even if they do something, they deserve a second chance, that their past does not necessarily define them, right? So even if they're not changing their majors, they're changing their mindsets, if that makes
That's a
sense.
fact. That's a fact. That's what I'm saying. When you go in online and to the mindfulness resolution project, you actually witness that from the students themselves.
I wanted to share something also that, as we just had Easter yesterday, there were very, very nice sermons all throughout. And one of them was focusing on the Mount of Gethsemane and how that means that at that place there was an olive grinder, right? And that's where the name comes from. But the message of why they brought the definition of the place was because they were trying to bring together what happens when you're under the grind, what comes out of you, how does that make you feel, like how do you react to that grind, and it's like unbelievable that you're mentioning all this today right after Easter Sunday, because it's exactly the same in a real person, modern times example, right? So many years after Christ was in that Mount of Gethsemane, now today we're here with you, Mr. Nashawn, mentioning about how you're supposed to handle that grind that society puts on us and what should be coming out of it, right? It could be that anger that most of society is what is expecting.
Mhm.
But if we are able to, like you say, to have patience, to have tolerance, to have all these more positive sentiments, what a difference it will make in the world, right?
Of course. I mean, we all have a mind, or put it so, we all have a brain that accesses the mind. All we have to do, like with network, the philosophy of network is a positive environment for human development and caring communities where individuals can help themselves and each other. So what we want to do, we want to create positive environments. How do we do that? We infuse it with positive energy. What type of energy? Learning energy, history, culture, things that deal with growth and development, right? Positive is growth. So a positive environment for human development and a caring community. So when we show that we care, people, like I said before, people are interested if you care about them. So when you show that you care for a person, that's how you can bring a person and get their undivided attention now, because they see that you care, right? So the next thing, now you put them in a safe environment, right? Where the environment is conducive towards their growth and development. It's growth filled. That's what we do in prison. We start creating those type of environments in prison in which they're being tested, because I came from that environment. And many of my other network alumni who hit the ground running came from that environment. You know, I'm definitely proud to say that, to share with you guys that I will be working with the Legal Aid Society in June. I was just offered the position as a paralegal client advocate. And basically, I'll be doing the same thing what I've been doing for Network for 8 years. So it's like,
Congratulations. That
thank you,
is wonderful. You will do
thank you,
great things.
thank you. And it's just consistent with the measures like one gives out. you get those same measures back in return, and they're going to come back great, because nothing comes from greatness but greatness. So if you think great, you become great, and you see great things happening. Not at a moment you think is going to happen, but within time, as long as you continue to grind or put that work in. Right, Caroline? Got to grind.
And in addition to that, also, I will add how you're utilizing your time, because nowadays we see how time is going away like water in your hand, right? And people are not realizing that they can be doing something more to construct themselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally, right?
Of
Even
course.
physically. But it's just such a kind of like not paying attention to how you're utilizing the 24 hours and all of its minutes per day. And when you come to realize it, everybody, when you look at them today, nowadays, they're like, wow, time is going so fast. I can't believe it's already May. I can't believe it's already June. I can't believe it's December again. But what are you doing? What are you doing to utilize this time as you did? Like, look at the example that you gave us today of how you utilize all that time that supposedly you didn't have the resources per se, or you could have been like, oh, poor me, I'm here and that. And you said, no, I got to take use of my time to make it a productive, positive outcome, right? There,
Indeed.
and when you come and you're now here, look at all the positivity that you're sharing with us, right? But that's another thing that people have to awaken to, right?
It's a fact. I mean, when I did those years of incarceration, I literally did not serve time. Time served me. I that's the way I look at it, right? I made use of time, and it developed me into the person as to who I am today. And I used to say, time's a luxury we can't afford. It's a luxury we cannot afford. Time. So,
Uh, any other questions from the audience? Any comments in the chat, maybe?
So I have another question. So I heard you say you're going to work with legal aid, so that kind of put you on the path when you said you wanted to come out and possibly do law, something like that. But then I also heard you say that, you went to school for business and you came back and you were looking to do some changes with your mom's business, the dry cleaning. Since then, have you done anything else that worked toward that that part? Have you started a business? Do you have a business, or are you working toward anything like that?
it's a beautiful question, because you did mention about me being in prison and Skidmore University, going to college for business, right? That's always on my mind. The subconscious mind is always working. And me, having to learn law to get out of prison. So I went to school to get my paralegal. And on top of that, before I wanted to go home, I wanted to become a lawyer, work for a law firm. So to answer your question, it all led up to where I'm at right now. It's like in June, I was hired by Network. In June, I'm getting hired by the Legal Aid Society. So everything coming to fruition. Everything I wanted to do now is coming to fruition. I have the business. I have my limited liability company, Shungite Magic, and I just got that business started in February. So everything, but as far as the question, Lisa, I mean, everything that I talked about while I was in prison that I wanted to do, I'm actually doing it right now. It was actually happening. It's coming into fruition. So that's the power of the mind, and having faith in yourself, believing in yourself, continue to do what's right to do. And your dream will come true.
So what is your business like, Shungite? Like what is that about?
Well, the Shungite is it's a retail business that sell a healing stone. It's called shungite. Is a healing stone. And so basically, what I do, I go out and I use my outreach skills. Like if I was actually working for network, so I go out and look for vendors who are selling health products, things like that. I'll introduce shungite, my product, to them, and after I enlighten them about this magnificent stone, then we do a little business. You get a third of the sales, and next thing you know, no overcost, no none of that stuff. All I have to do is just go there, ask them if anything is sold, take the inventory, collect what I collect. They get their third and keep it moving and go to the next store and the next door, 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 to the next door. So that's one of the ideas that I came up with as far as being able to sell my product by contracting with existing vendors. I have to pay no rent, no overhead, none of that. Just drop
So
off,
it's
collect. That's it.
so it's like a stone, like my girlfriends collect crystals. So it's just a stone that I sit in my house, or like
No, it's a
what?
jury.
I'm
It's
trying to
jury. I'm
understand.
sorry. We sell jewelry, shungite jewelry. I sell bracelets because at one time I had problems. I don't know, it was carpal tunnel or whatever. It was pain. I had constant pain. I couldn't do push-ups. So I said, you know what? Let me try this shungite. Let me experience it. So I had this on for 3 years. I have no pain, none of that. I also keep it around my neck because as I be driving, it be passing 5G towers. You know that radiation is everywhere. Like I said, we're living in a microwave society, and my thing is longevity. I want to live to see at least 120. So
So it's not just a healing stone. It has other things that it also assists you with.
you can purify your water with it. You can take um, a few of those. I would say the elite noble shungite. You take a couple of chunks of that and you just put it in your water and just leave it there for 48 hours and actually change the taste of the water. It brings the pH level down to 7. You can actually start off with tap water and your water, it just tastes totally different after you put the shungite in there and leave it in for 3 days. You use 3 nuggets, nice little nuggets, and put them in there. And also we
Okay.
sell, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. Go on.
And also, I came up with an idea whereas I have the manufacturers in Russia, I have them to crush the shungite into a powder, and then I mix the powder with shea butter. I melt the shea butter and I mix it in there, and so that you actually have the shungite in your pores. I call it elite shungite body armor. And it actually produces the hair growth. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to make a video on all this stuff, and part of my advertisement. I'm coming out with some soap too, some shungite soap in a minute.
We have also a message on the chat for you all the way from Athens, Greece. The lady just signed out because it's almost midnight over there. But she says, congratulations to Nashon. Greetings. And Professor Art, you're going to have to help me with the Greek translation there.
Okay, yes, she's from Athens, Greece. She also says that she learns a lot from these weekly presentations. Thank you for your presentation today. And she said, "Kaloximerma," which is good sunrise, right? Like beautiful, have a beautiful sunrise because it's at 12:30 midnight there now. Yes.
I
Before
just
Many
sent her a message
blessings.
thanking her. I sent her a
Oh,
message
yes.
thanking her.
You did, yes.
Nice, kind of, yes. Before we close, we always have a takeaway from our artivists. Therefore, today, Mr. Nashan, is your turn. What will be a key takeaway that you would like to leave us for action?
Um, Mindfulness, right? Just be mindful of others. when we interact with them, and just be more listeners and show that we care. If we can do that, that'll be a start of changing the world to become a better place, because again, we find that every person needs to be cared for. Somebody want to be looked out for. Someone want to know that they're being cared for, or someone cares. And we can do more of that, then I think we have a better world. Show more care.
Oh, thank you, Nishan. This was great. As always, we appreciate your honesty, your openness. Um, you know, uh, just everything. We wish you the best of luck in your new position with legal aid and with your business. Please do share, what you're working on. And if there's any way we can share with our network, we will do so. Thank you to Carolina for making this all possible. It was Carolina's idea of this Artivism initiative, and these weekly or presentations. I don't think anybody really expected it to go 9 seasons. And about 150 plus presenters after. Thank you, of course, to Adelphi University, our sponsors, Gottesman Libraries, a Teachers College at Columbia University, and Sync for Hope. We hope to see you again next week, and then when we return in the fall. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolina, Audrey.
Oh,
It's been
thank
a
you.
blessing. It's been a
Thank
blessing.
you. Blessings to you also. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.